So a Whole Foods opens downtown, rents spike, new restaurants move in, and everyone's talking about a comeback. Then one day, the Whole Foods shuts down after barely a year, and within months, the whole block starts emptying out. That's not a theory, that's something that actually happened. And it's playing out right now in 8 American towns where the same domino effect is gutting main streets faster than anyone predicted. We're talking boarded storefronts, ghost malls, empty corridors where people used to actually shop and eat and live. Stick around because a couple of these are going to genuinely surprise you. Number 1, Carrier Mills, Illinois. Carrier Mills has about 1,700 people, and at some point the downtown didn't just slow down, it basically stopped. No Whole Foods story here, no Nordstrom, no flashy anchor that bailed. The anchor was a grocery store, and when it left, people had to drive 20 minutes just to buy milk. Small-town downtowns run on 1 or 2 stores that pull foot traffic, and everything else feeds off that. A diner stays open because the hardware store next door brings people in. A barbershop survives because the grocery store is 2 doors down. Pull that one thread and the whole thing unravels fast. And Carrier Mills had zero cushion for that. Saline County ranks among the most economically distressed counties in Illinois, with household incomes sitting well below the state average and a population that's been shrinking for decades. So when the last real anchor retailer closed, there was no city grant program waiting, no developer circling the block with a conversion plan. What you get instead is a food desert downtown, where the commercial core and basic access to groceries collapse at the same time. That hits lower-income residents hardest because they're the least able to jump in a car and drive 20 miles to a Walmart. This isn't abstract economics. It's whether someone's grandmother can get food this week. Most of the policy conversation about dying downtown centers on the 12 largest U.S. cities, the Stanford Donut Effect research, the Nordstrom closures. Carrier Mills doesn't show up in any of that. It was already hollowed out before the pandemic started, and it's completely invisible to anyone writing the policy responses. Number 2, Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana used to have a downtown people actually drove to. Department stores, a hotel, movie theaters, restaurants packed along Broadway corridor. At its peak in the 1960s, Gary had nearly 180,000 people and a commercial core that matched every single one of them. Then, U.S. Steel started bleeding out. The mill had employed tens of thousands of workers, and those paychecks funded every barbershop, shoe store, and diner downtown. When the steel industry collapsed through the late 1970s and into the 1980s, Gary didn't just lose jobs, it lost the entire reason its downtown existed. Watch the domino sequence. Major retailers left first, then mid-sized shops, then the small businesses that survived off that foot traffic. The City Methodist Church sits right there on Broadway today, abandoned and crumbling, one of the most photographed derelict buildings in America, a physical record of how fast 180,000 people can become 70,000. Number 3, Macomb, Illinois. You'd think a college town would be immune to this. Western Illinois University sits right there, 7,000 students plus faculty, staff, and all the spending that comes with them. And yet Macomb's downtown has been losing storefronts for years, with the main square going dark in a pattern that genuinely shouldn't be possible. But students don't walk to the square anymore. They order DoorDash, shop on Amazon, and drive to the Walmart on the edge of town. The businesses that used to count on that foot traffic have been quietly bleeding out. And now the university itself is shrinking. Enrollment has dropped steadily for years, which means fewer students and fewer staff paychecks circulating through town. A university losing enrollment does the exact same thing to a surrounding downtown that a Nordstrom closure does to a mall. Remove the thing that brings people, and everything built around those people stops making financial sense. Number 4, San Bernardino, California. San Bernardino filed for bankruptcy in 2012, and the city didn't exactly stumble into that. The population and tax base had been shrinking for years before the filing, which means fewer workers downtown, less spending, less tax revenue, cuts to city services, which pushed more people out, which cut the tax base further. San Bernardino just hit that wall earlier and harder than most cities. And sitting right in the middle of all this is the Carousel Mall, 1 million square feet of empty retail that closed in 2017 and hasn't been touched since. Redevelopment plans have been announced, stalled, re-announced, and stalled again. Converting a building that massive isn't just a money problem, it's an architectural one too, because those floor plates weren't designed for apartments or offices or anything people actually want now. The city's pushing a mixed-use redevelopment plan for the site, but San Bernardino's vacancy problem predates the pandemic by over a decade. So recovery isn't really the right word for what they're attempting. Number 5, Kannapolis, North Carolina. Kannapolis was literally a company town. Cannon Mills owned the textile mill, owned the houses, owned the downtown, and employed most of the people. When Pillowtex Corporation shut down in 2003, 4,500 jobs disappeared in a single day, the largest layoff in North Carolina history. Let that sink in. Every business downtown existed to serve mill workers. The lunch counters, hardware stores, clothing shops, all of it calibrated to shift workers with Cannon Mills paychecks. Pull those paychecks and the math breaks for every single business on the street simultaneously, not gradually, all at once. But Kannapolis actually pulled something off. The city partnered with billionaire David Murdoch to convert the old mill site into a biotech research campus. New restaurants opened. A minor league baseball stadium went up. Real foot traffic came back. It took 15 years and a billionaire to do it, though. Number 6, St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis had 856,000 people in 1950. It has around 300,000 now. That's not a typo, and it's not a pandemic story either. It's 70 years of slow, steady bleeding that nobody ever called a crisis because it never happened all at once. Downtown has scored some real wins. Busch Stadium fills up, the Arch grounds look great, a few hotels went up, but office vacancy rates have been among the highest of any major American city for years. And without workers filling those buildings on weekdays, the lunch spots and coffee shops and dry cleaners that depend on that foot traffic just can't survive. And the governance situation makes everything harder. St. Louis City and St. Louis County operate completely separately, so while the suburbs around the city grew and attracted investment, the city core kept cycling downward with no coordinated response to slow it. Number 7, Portland, Oregon. Portland's downtown collapse is the one that genuinely broke people's brains because this wasn't Gary, Indiana. Portland was supposed to be the model, the cool, walkable city every urban planner pointed to. Then, within about 3 years, Nordstrom shuttered its Pioneer Place flagship, Whole Foods closed after barely 12 months, and Nike pulled its House of Sport. Block by block, the vacancy spread. And the problems didn't start with the pandemic. Rising property crime and open drug use were already pushing shoppers and workers away before 2020. The pandemic just accelerated what was already in motion. What makes Portland so instructive is that Whole Foods opening was supposed to signal a comeback. Rents climbed around it, new restaurants moved in nearby betting on that foot traffic, and then it closed, and those businesses were suddenly completely exposed. The major anchors still haven't announced plans to return. Number 8, San Luis Obispo, California. San Luis Obispo is the one on this list that's going to make you do a double take. This city consistently ranks among the happiest places to live in the country. Cal Poly sits right there. The weather is genuinely absurd, and the downtown has been walkable and functional for years. Sounds like a dream, right? But what's killing SLO's downtown isn't vacancy from anchor exits. It's rent so high that longtime local businesses literally can't afford to stay. The family-owned restaurant gets priced out, a chain moves in, or the space sits empty. Locals stop walking downtown as much, and foot traffic drops, which eventually makes even the expensive spaces unattractive to the national chains that replace the locals. Remote workers who move there for quality of life are, in aggregate, pricing out the businesses that created that quality of life in the first place.